Hi, I am Karen from Karen Clark Creations, an artsy introvert. In this video, I'll be working on Friends Season 1, Episode 9, the one where Underdog gets away. I decided to paint the scene where the gang is eating grilled cheese instead of the traditional Thanksgiving dinner. So I did not have a reference photo for this, so I made one up. I am really having fun with that, actually, and I knew that they had grilled cheese and tomato soup and Funyuns and wine, so I set up a little still life in my house. I made some grilled cheese, I had some tomato soup, I just made a little wine glass. The only thing I was missing was Funyuns, and I so much regret not buying Funyuns for this because I would have loved eating them afterwards. I love Funyuns, and I didn't know how much I loved them until recently when my niece and nephew had a bag, and oh my gosh, they were so good. But anyway, I didn't have them for this. First, I blocked in the sandwiches with just a very light yellow ochre color. I didn't want the background of the sandwich to be white. It needs to be a golden color. Then I'm adding a really light background. The reason for that is, one, I wanted to kind of separate it from the sweet and low packets that are from season 8. And I plan on leaving that plate white. And I'm not going to add any design to it. Even though Monica's plates have a design, I didn't want to add that. So I had to put in a background to make the plate stand out. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the really toasty edge to the sandwiches that you get from when you're grilling them in a pan. And I really looked back, well, I didn't look back, but I took inspiration from the lasagna episode. This isn't cheese that's bubbly, but it's still, toasty goodness. And it's going to be the same kind of method I use for the cheese that I'm going to use for the toasted sandwich. So after Thanksgiving dinner gets ruined, the gang eats this instead of the traditional Thanksgiving meal. And Chandler really loves that because of his aversion to the holiday due to the childhood trauma. And I just thought it was a really sweet thing. And while they don't keep the tradition up, I just really, really enjoyed it. So that's why I wanted to do that for this entry. Other ideas I had were an underdog balloon, but that just seemed way too difficult. It would have been huge, so I probably would have needed to put some buildings in there, and I don't want to make this harder than it needs to be. It's just my own personal sketchbook, and seeing the grilled cheese with, on this page, I will know exactly which episode we're talking about. So I thought that it represented well. Another idea was a pair of keys sitting on the counter to hint at the ones that were left behind, causing the door to the apartment to get locked and everyone getting stuck out in the hall. But I didn't think that really would have represented well because there aren't actually a pair of keys that you see. It might have been okay, but I don't know. It just didn't seem right. One that would have been fun was the 3 different kind of potatoes that Monica was cooking for the meal that got ruined. There was mashed with lumps for Ross, because that's how his mom makes them, even though that's not how they're supposed to be. Then there's whipped with peas and onions for Phoebe, because that's how her mom used to make them. And then there are tater tots for Joey, or Mario, as she says. Because he likes to get a little bit of turkey and a little bit of cranberry sauce and all on the same fork as a tot. That actually sounds pretty good. But then the last idea was a shelf full of books about being a lesbian, because it is hilarious when Ross goes to Carol and Susan's house looking for a skull. I don't think he ever found the skull. Maybe he did, but looking for a skull, and he's like, wow, you guys sure do have a lot of books about being a lesbian. And Susan says, you have to take a course, otherwise they don't let you do it. She delivered it great. Love that line. But I didn't want to do something so controversial, even though I don't think it's controversial. I have no problem with love. Love is love. That's my motto. But I just didn't think I needed to get political in this. In fact, I feel too political just saying it, but it's been said. So those were my ideas. I am thrilled with the grilled cheese and wine that I put on this page with the sweet and low and the pen from the episode 7. I think it turned out to be a great page, and it's my best one yet. I only hope that I keep getting better and better, and maybe one of these days I will tackle a harder scene. For example, the Underdog balloon in the city scene. But for now, I think this is great. I like that I'm going for simplicity. I'm just going with whatever style I like. Like this has been eye-opening, actually, kind of seeing what my style is. You know, people always worry about what's my style, how do I find my style? Well, just painting. Just paint. Just do it and you'll find it. And apparently my style is food. Food. So there's lasagna so far. Lasagna, the Tiki Death Punch, sweet and low packets, and grilled cheese. And I love them all. So here I'm going in with the shadow that would be on the rim of the plate, and that really sets it apart to show that it's a plate without actually painting a plate. I mean, it's very, very simple, very light, and I think it turned out great. Next, I'm going to go in and put some detail in the stem of the wine glass and around the globe of the wine glass. I don't love what I'm doing here, but I'm doing it intentionally anyway. I wanted to put dark in. I wanted to see how that would look. And I think it's too intense. So I'm just in my mind thinking about, okay, so just keep going. We can fix this. We can work with it. And we definitely do. Just keep going. It all works out. And then I'm going to add just a slight hint of a wine color. I did not want it to be overbearing. I didn't want it to be in your face. I just wanted, because I wanted the grilled cheese. I wanted the grilled cheese to be the star, but I wanted something to come up the side of the page to kind of meet with the sweet and lows. So that's why I went with the wine glass. So I'm just gonna very, very light white wine color. So then I got out the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleedproof White. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use that or a white gouache. I started with the Bleedproof White. Of course, I have to dry it first to make sure it works. Not make sure it works, but make sure it goes on the page well. So the sandwiches would have a little bit of a shine and sparkle to them, where there's a little bit of that butter residue left over. And then I also wanted to add a little bit of highlight coming from the upper left to show the dimension of like the curvature of the bread. So that's why I'm adding highlights there. I also added highlights on the cheese because the cheese was kind of getting lost in the final picture. That it's still kind of lost, but you can tell it's grilled cheese. I can tell it's grilled cheese. I think it's good. But really, you know, the cheese isn't really seen in a grilled cheese until you break it open anyway. So I think it worked. I'm adding a little bit more toastiness to those because it just seemed like it just wasn't toasty enough for my taste. Because you know me, well, you might not know me. If you know me from my lasagna painting, you know I like toasty. In fact, I always get the extra toasty Cheez-Its. They're my favorite. I love them when they get a little bit brown. And I like making my microwave popcorn and popcorn on the stove. I like leaving it in a little bit too long so that it starts to get a little toasty. I'm probably in the minority for that. But maybe not, because they produce extra toasty Cheez-Its, so there must be plenty of other people like me that like it. All right, now I'm going to try to push that wine glass back a little bit. There's still going to be a hint of that darker color, but it's not going to be like bam in your face. It's just going to be a nice hint of a wine glass back there. And then a little bit of highlight on around the curvature of the goblet part. So while my style, I always say I'm watercolor, I guess I am leaning more towards mixed media in that I like watercolor and gouache and this bleed-proof white. And I know technically gouache and watercolor are the same, except for that watercolor is more transparent, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that this would be considered mixed media, or do you think it would still be considered just watercolor? I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in this. I'm not a pro. I'm just winging it as I go along. I know it's not traditional, because if you wanted that white highlight in traditional, you would have to preserve it using masking fluid, or you would have to scrape it out with a knife. I'm not going that route. That's just not something I'm interested in. Now, masking fluid, sure. I have used that plenty of times and I would still use it, but this is so much easier. Okay, so we're going to add the finishing touches. And that's pretty much it. This was season 1, episode 9. Let me know in the comments what you think about this episode of Friends and my painting. Give me a like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications of newly uploaded videos, because the next episode will be out soon.